Well, good afternoon, everybody. This is the December version of the MSMF Wealth Management Podcast. I'm joined today by my colleagues Cody Redding and Jay Peters. Gentlemen, how are we?
Great.
Doing good.
Christmas is almost here.
Can you believe it? It's mid-December and Christmas is just around the corner and 2022 is going to go away. Hard to believe. I want you to know that I have my Cardinals cup here because I'm convinced when I had my Blues Tervis, it was my fault they were losing, so I've changed. Unfortunately, my Mizzou Tervis has a hole in the bottom of it. It's leaking water everywhere, as evidenced by the game against Kansas, but that's another podcast. Chris Seifert behind the controls, along with Craig Raykemper, are hiding their faces right now, just like the Mizzou team is. Anyway, let's move on. We're here at the end of the year. It's been a long year. We've covered a lot of great stuff. What I'd like to do today is to talk about New Year's resolutions for our financial game plans. And as you guys know, I know what you do with your clients. There's 5 or 6 different sections that you talk to your clients about. I know you typically start the year out talking about reassessing financial goals. We talk about cash flow. We talk about their personal balance sheet, talk about their investment portfolio, protection strategies, and then potentially tax strategies. So we're going to cover all 6 of those today. I'm going to, of course, make the two of you do most of the heavy lifting. But I'll start out by talking about kind of reassessing New Year's resolutions, your financial goals for 2023. And again, the first thing I think to assess progress relative to the goals you already have in place, and then to consider are there additional goals that we want to set forth for 2023, whether that's we're going to make some type of asset purchase, a car or a house. There's an educational goal we want to try to fund, or hopefully maybe we're barreling down the path to retirement and we want to take a look at that and get some deeper understanding of what kind of path we're on. Also, life events are a big one, right? You guys, the last few years, have had relatively large life events with children coming on the scene. That's always a big one, or grandchildren, as the case may be. Education, again, can be a life event. A job change can be a life event if we anticipate that. Again, retirement is a life event. Any type of life event typically is some type of financial transition that we want to keep an eye out for our clients. And then lastly, I know you guys talk to your clients about this all the time. What kind of potential potholes our clients may be concerned about in 2023 that we need to kind of keep our eye out on? You know, is a possibility or someone's already become ill or we have potentially some health issues we got to be concerned about. And unfortunately, the scenario we're in right now, I think in 2023, we're going to hear about some potential job losses, and we need to be able to kind of correct course and adjust from that perspective. So from a goals perspective, that's just kind of a rundown of things to consider. Let's dive into a little more details, Jay or Cody, and let's talk about cash flow issues for our clients to consider in 2023.
Yeah, so, reassessing the new year or the end of the year and the new year beginning, I think now's a good time to look at your expenses and kind of shore those up. Did they come in within budget or with inflation? For a lot of people, I'm sure you probably spent a little bit more than you wanted to this year. So going forward to the next year, do you need to kind of access and maybe raise that budget a bit? A lot of people just went through open enrollment, so employee benefits are changing, and most likely a lot of you guys are having to come out a little bit more of pocket for your health care and things like that. So making sure that you're planning for that to be in your budget as well. And retirement plan contributions, now is a really good time to take a look at those and maybe raise those 1% or 2% if you can. See if you can maximize those savings for retirement. And shoring up liquidity, as you talked about, there could be job layoffs with the job market, making sure that you have enough cash reserves for times of need that you certainly could need them. RMDs at the end of the year, if you haven't taken them, now is a good time to do that.
Those are required minimum distributions?
Yeah, required minimum distribution, the word required. And if you don't take them, it's, 50% penalty, no big deal. But
5-0?
5-0, yeah.
Okay, it's checking.
So you might want to make sure that those are done. And gifts, annual exclusion limits. It is on a 12/31 basis. So if you're wanting to I think it's $15,000. Is that right, Mark? Yeah, if you're wanting to get that $15,000 annual exclusion limit, before the end of the year, that would also be a good time to do that. And you can start again on January 1st. So
16, I think. For
is it
this
16 now?
year. I'm being
16.
corrected by Craig Raykemper behind the scene over there.
16,000. Thank you, Craig. And again, that could be adjusted for inflation as well. So, those are all just important things as expenses and ways to save money on your 401k plans and things like that. So, good time to reassess that.
Super. By the way, RMDs, required minimum distributions. I am the acronym police, just so you know. I have a badge underneath my pullover. Quick question. So, you guys both know, when we always talk about in our firm, it's budget versus actuals. How are we getting close to, and really that concept works with our clients as well, right? Even if it's kind of a 10,000-foot view budget, how did we come in at the end of the year, kind of like you said?
Yeah, just looking at it, an easy way to kind of track your expenses through the year. I know we probably mostly use credit cards. So you can categorize those items and see where you're spending the money or overspending, probably not underspending for a lot of people, but it gives you a good idea on where to look at saving some money.
Super. Thanks, Cody. Jay, I know you do a lot of work with your clients. You launch the vast majority of your meetings doing kind of a quick review of someone's balance sheet because you do your planning based on who your clients are, everything they are financially, and that's on their balance sheet. From a goals perspective or a New Year's resolution for a financial game plan, what do we got to worry about with our personal balance sheet?
Yeah, so we think of a personal balance sheet sometimes as kind of our report card, right? How are we doing? Are we doing better this year than last year with our savings? And one of the first things that we want to check off is for that emergency fund, do we have it built up to where we can sleep at night? Your sleep quotient comes into play, right? and I feel like that's one of the most important things to look on the balance sheet, right off the top. Because to Cody's point, if you don't have that, you need to adjust some other New Year's resolutions right off the bat, right? And then other things that we're looking at with the balance sheet, what type of debt do you have on your balance sheet? Is it good debt versus bad debt? What are the interest rates on these different accounts that you have? Right now may not be a good time to refinance a lot of these different obligations, but sometimes you need to. Maybe there's other strategies that can go along with the debt management as well. Do you need to borrow money in the future if you have other New Year's resolutions, like if you're building a pool or something like that, right? And you maybe need to borrow some money to kind of take care of those types of things. And then the last thing I kind of wanted to point out was, how much do you have in accessible ready money? So above and beyond the cash reserves, if there is another type of event that happens, how much do you have ready to pull from other types of accounts? So, if everything's in a qualified account for like a retirement account and you're going to be penalized for taking it from there, maybe you should start a different type of investment or savings type of account. So those are some balance sheet things that we're always looking at every year. And now's a good time to take a look at last year and take a grade and figure out what you can do for next year.
Yeah, that's super, Jay. Let me just ask you again, maybe just drive home the point. It's a great time now to look at the liquidity on your balance sheet. Again, we may be entering into a period in 2023 where, unfortunately, layoffs become a thing. Mm-hmm. And we got to know if, hey, we're out of work for 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, whatever, where is there cash that we can go and access?
Right, and it doesn't necessarily all have to be in that cash reserve, as a sleep quotient. For many people, it probably should be.
Right.
But, so every different account is accessible in some way. It's just at what cost. And we want to make sure we're set up to where if there is a big event like you're talking about, we have a plan and a strategy of where we're going to get it from. Super.
Thank you. So, Cody, let me go back to you. The large part of our clients' balance sheet is their investment portfolio. Mm-hmm. So when we look at New Year's resolutions for our financial game plan, what is it you're coaching your clients to look at as we kick off a new year?
Yeah, so, a lot of things, but I think, number one is reassessing the risk in your portfolio. We've gone through a volatile year. Are you okay with weathering that type of storm again, or do we need to make some sort of a risk adjustment on that front? How diversified are you? With company stocks and things like that, if you have access to through that in your job, are you carrying a little bit too much of weight in that? Do you need to lower that? or just overall the funds that you're in? Do you need to diversify a little bit more? What stage are you at in your financial life? If you're getting into that 3 to 5 year stage where you're going to be entering retirement, do we need to take a look at reassessing all the accounts and the risks that are associated with it, and get a game plan for maybe income purposes? That is kind of the time frame where you really want to start digging into that and seeing kind of maybe how much you need to pull off of your portfolio. That way we can come up with a sound strategy that you're not worried about the market movements as much.
Right.
And your individual IRA and 401k accounts, are they invested appropriately for you? Are you taking enough risk? Are you taking too much risk? All that kind of intertwines together, which goes through the cash flow, which goes onto the balance sheet. So just making sure they're all working with each other real well.
Super. So one question to kind of clarify. I know that you talk to your clients a lot about, their risk speed limit. Mm-hmm. Is it a good time in the beginning of the year to reassess that, or what are your thoughts on that?
Yes, especially after a year like this, you think that you want to, yeah, you think you want to take as much risk as possible, and then you open up your statements and you kind of think otherwise, right? So are you comfortable taking on that risk? Are you, now's the time to make those changes. Are you comfortable with losing, you could potentially lose another 15 or 20%. How would that still make you look at the risk that you're taking? So taking all that consideration, I think right now would certainly be a good time that, we're really feeling it now. So it's fresh in the mind. Yeah.
Fresh. It's fresh. Thank you, sir. Jay, I would say probably of all these areas, this may be one of the ones that's most forgotten by our clients, and I know you do a great job of bringing it back to the forefront. Talk to me about when we kick off a new year for our clients, relative to these New Year's resolutions towards their protection strategies. What should they be asking themselves?
Sure, and it's no surprise that it's overlooked because these are all happy conversations to talk about, right? Protection of everything, because that means something bad happened. So I think the most obvious thing that when we're talking about protection is some form of life insurance. And in every stage of life, I believe that there is a certain type of life insurance that's probably appropriate for them based on their age, based on their goals. But when's the last time that you sat down and thought about, is this appropriate for me, right? And so it's a good time to take a look at that and maybe make it a priority to have it reviewed during the year. Kind of related to that, disability insurance is often overlooked. I'm just going to leave it at that. Is it time to consider long-term care protection? That is one where there's kind of a sweet spot to really think about it, where it doesn't make sense before or after that. But there is a time in our financial lives to really consider that, right? Maybe we're getting close to that. Talking about property and casualty insurance, right? Homes and cars and that sort of thing. Maybe just having our insurance agent take a look at that and how are our liability limits? Are they too high or too low or that sort of thing? That's something that kind of changes a lot. And with the value of everything going up, you need to check your liability limits every now and then, right? Related to that, while you're talking to them, maybe double check on your umbrella policy, something that's overlooked, low cost, really valuable when you need it, right? So that's another thing to maybe kind of consider. And then the last part, I'm kind of lump all these things together, is just an overall estate plan, wills, power of attorneys, healthcare directives, trust, all those, again, really happy and fun conversations. But it's one of those things that's a small probability of happening, but the consequences are really, really big for whoever's left. So just making sure you've checked those boxes, and it's peace of mind, really. It's not really going to help you out that much, but whoever's left, you want to make sure that you're taking care of them.
Yeah.
So.
No, I appreciate that, Jay, and I know we all three talk a lot like this. That wealth management and financial strategy is always asking, "What if?"
Right.
And what if something bad happens? Are we prepared for it? So yeah, those are great comments. Our last section is only slightly more fun to talk about, more fun, funner than protection, and that's tax strategies, right? Mm-hmm. So I think right off the bat, in terms of a New Year's resolution, pull your tax stuff together earlier, right, this year for your 2022 tax return. And, take a look. I know we've talked to a lot of you about Roth conversions, and typically it's in the fourth quarter because we talk about whether that makes sense or not. And if it didn't make sense for 2022, it may make sense for 2023. If we think we're going to have some type of significant change in income, typically downward if we're going to retire, Roth conversions may be an important strategy to consider. Also, were there gifts made during 2022? There is a gifting limit that Cody spoke to of $16,000. Are we planning on making gifts in 2023? There are certainly some strategies associated with that. And I think when clients get their tax return back for 2022 in the next, let's say, 4 to 6 months, did they get a refund? Did they owe money? Was it a little bit? If it's a lot, maybe there's a different strategy there instead of getting a giant refund, maybe a little bit smaller refund so you can have that money throughout the year. As you all know, we don't prepare taxes. We're not tax professionals. We understand tax code, but again, please talk to your tax professional, your CPA, your enrolled agent. Relative to some of those tax strategies, we can certainly help you from the 10,000-foot view, and then devil's in the details with those folks. So, Jay, again, New Year's resolutions for my financial game plan. What's your top advice for our clients?
And I have to give credit to Craig again. This is 3 times he's been mentioned in this podcast.
Someday he'll be in front of the camera.
He said, the hardest part is sticking to your resolution. And, you see that's when the biggest bump in gym memberships happens, and then they all fall off in March. It's the same thing with these things. And so we want to be here and to help you not only make the plan, but to help you stick to it. And so, maybe put some checkpoints out there, but we want to be here to help.
Jay, will you be my financial accountability partner?
Sure. Does that pay well?
I don't know. You'll have to let everyone know if you think it pays well. Cody, New Year's resolutions for my financial game plan. What's your number one advice for our clients?
Yeah, I think number one is just, I think cash flow wise, I think this was a year where we haven't had inflation like it has been in a while. And with, possibility of, recession maybe looming, making sure that you have enough money set aside, that you are doing those what ifs in your head, and kind of shoring up and keeping track of, actually what you're spending. So
super.
Yep.
Great input, fellas. As always, you're right on point. I would urge any of you, if you have a question, there's a lot here. It's going to be about 15-minute worth of a podcast you're listening to. You got any questions, reach out to us, pick up the phone, email us. If you email me, please email Craig as well. Use the text line that you all have access to, and we'd love to answer any questions you or your friends or family or colleagues have on any of this as we enter into 2023. I want to wish you guys a Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays to all of our clients, and we'll see you in 2023.